Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Absolute bombshell news coming late Friday night. As true freshman All-American, the number one player available in the transfer portal, former five-star safety Caleb Downs, committing to Ohio State. And I mean, for those who follow college football relatively closely, you're familiar with Caleb Downs. It's kind of hard to overstate how massive of an addition Caleb Downs is to this Ohio State defense. And Dill, the message I'm getting from Ryan Day in this Ohio State program, we talked about it less than 24 hours ago when Bill O'Brien was hired to Ohio State, is this is a program that the last 3 years were unacceptable. And there are a lot of programs across the country that would die for what Ohio State was able to do the last 3 years. To Ryan Day and this Ohio State program, that's not the standard. And what they've done in the last couple of weeks in terms of retaining players, going out and hiring coaches, grabbing guys like Caleb Downs and Quinshon Judkins in the transfer portal, sending a message not only to Michigan, not only the Big Ten, not only to the country in terms of this is a program that is turning it around in 2024. Massive addition. Want to get into a couple things. One, Caleb Downs, what he brings to this Ohio State program, but more importantly, Dill, now I got a list of guys on this Ohio State defense. The amount of NFL talent that's going to be on this Ohio State defense in 2024 is something truly special. Want to get into that as well. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. And it has truly been a blast covering the transfer portal the last couple of weeks. We're having a blast doing it. Cannot thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And Dale, I'll give you the T-box here. Caleb Downs heading to Ohio State. How we feeling?
I mean, I think you kind of mentioned Ryan Day and what some of the coaching staff moves he's made to kind of get this thing back rolling. And it's been rolling. It's not like it had, but like get it rolling in the way Ohio State wants it to be rolling, and being the dominant player in the Big Ten and being more on the national, or being more of a presence on the national stage. I think the players, you kind of see that commitment from them too. I mean, when you return that whole 2021 class, a handful of which are very much NFL talents, probably would be a fair amount number of high picks in that group. I mean, to the fact that group is coming together and kind of saying like, we haven't had the careers we should have had at Ohio State. I mean, that's a group, I think, when they came in together, you saw how high, like, what were there, like 5 guys in the top 10 recruiting rankings, haven't won a national title, haven't been in a national title. I think, like, you're kind of seeing the whole program kind of put its foot down and say, all right, enough is enough. We got to go get one. And it's interesting to see. You see guys across the country now, Judkins, Downs, Will Howard, like, I think everyone's starting to see it, and they see that this can be a special year. And frankly, for Ryan Day, he needs it.
Yeah, Ryan Day certainly needs it. Now, talking about Caleb Downs, you could start with this Ohio State secondary. I mean, Denzel Burke would have been an NFL draft pick. Davison Ignosin is going to be an NFL draft pick. Hancock, Styles, Jermaine Matthews. I mean, Lathan Ransom didn't even make my list. He's another guy that would play the NFL. You just look at this Ohio State secondary on its own. There's going to be guys who are selected in the NFL draft that aren't even going to be starting for Ohio State. You talk about talent acquisition. You talk about building depth. I mean, that is what Ohio State has done. Now, talking about Caleb Downs, I mean, we could talk for a half hour about what Caleb Downs brings to this defense, a guy that led Alabama in snaps on defense as a true freshman. And keep in mind, he was playing with guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold, 2 of which are going to be first-round NFL draft picks in the next couple months. That just tells you, I mean, how mature and how gifted Caleb Downs was as 12 months ago when he enrolled early to Alabama, was pretty much penciled in as the starter for Alabama. When Nick Saban talked about Caleb Downs, you saw a twinkle in his eye. And this is a guy that is truly special, can do so many different things, and you slot him in to an Ohio State secondary room that has the names that we just listed. You look at this group and say, this is one of the most talented secondary groups that we've seen in college football in a very long time.
And that's like the thing. It's just like you really have nowhere to attack on them because you're good at both cornerback spots. You're excellent in the slot with Hancock. And now you have 2 safeties. Again, assuming they like even just develop from where they were. I mean, Styles, you kind of saw him start to come on at the end of the year and play some good football. Caleb Downs obviously was a little more consistent, just played great right from the start. But if him and Styles kind of take that jump, I mean, those are such unique athletes. Styles being that size, being able to move as well as he does. And then Caleb Downs, just like, I mean, we were talking about this guy in high school. I remember you were watching the Mill Creek Buford game, and you kind of just like
He's different.
Caleb Downs stuck out. He was like, well, who's that guy? Who's that number 2 on Mill Creek? Because that guy looks different than all these other guys, and all these other guys are high-level D1 players.
And the thing what makes Caleb Downs so special, again, a lot of Ohio State fans who might not be familiar with Caleb Downs, which I'm sure Ohio State fans are, because you heard the traction, you heard the noise about Caleb Downs being or Ohio State being a contender for Caleb Downs. The special athlete. There's no question about that. His instincts and his feel for the position as a true freshman, that's kind of what made him stick out. I mean, to start on Alabama as a true freshman, you have to be special. To lead the team in snaps on Alabama as a true freshman, that's kind of like unheard of. And that's what Caleb Downs did. He's a guy that is extremely versatile. You take a look at his snap counts, kind of doing some reading on him. 287 snaps as a free safety, another 285 as a box defender, 268 in the slot, and he can do it all. He's a hammer in the run game, had over 14 run stops, only missed 11% of his tackles as a true freshman in the SEC. I mean, my notes are loaded with Caleb Downs. Faced 51 targets, only gave up 33 catches. He's elite in coverage. He can be a force in the run game. The ultimate chess piece, the ultimate difference maker for Ohio State on defense. And Dill, I think what I would add is even more exciting is Coach Knowles going into year 3 of this defense. We saw some growing pains year 1, right? It was a more complicated defense. Guys were kind of still learning the ropes. Year 2, you made some strides. Going into year 3, if you're Ohio State and all of these guys are kind of, all right, this is our defense. We know our roles. We know what we need to do. I think that's when you're going to see a defense that was already great in 2023, maybe even take that next step in 2024.
Yeah, and I don't want to minimize what the outside corners do because they do what they do and they're awesome at it. But like to have those 3 guys in like the safety nickelback kind of room that are so versatile, and you again, like Caleb Downs can pretty much play linebacker, safety, or corner. Same thing with the other 2, Hancock and obviously Styles, kind of have the similar type of skill set. It'll be interesting to see what they can do with those 3 because again, you kind of see. I think you can do. Again, what Jim Knowles wants to do, just like do it better. You can disguise.
What does Knowles want to do on defense? He wants to give a ton of different looks, a ton of different pressure packages, and a ton of different coverage packages. And when you have, I mean, guys like Styles and Caleb Downs that can do so many things and impact the game in so many different ways. I mean, Knowles is sitting there. He's going to be up all night for the next 9 months just trying to figure out what he's going to do with guys like Caleb Downs and Styles in the back end because it's 2 guys that have, I mean, the ultimate versatility. I think, one, it's a perfect fit. Another thing that we've talked about is kind of having these kind of players in the modern day of college football, right? When all these offenses, especially when you add Washington and you add Oregon into the Big Ten, you're going to see a lot of different looks, and these teams are going to try to get speed and space on you. And you have the ability now to match that speed and the spread attack, but also not really give much up in the run game because Caleb Downs is a guy that is a hammer in the run game as well. When you have that ability with Styles and Caleb Downs to match that personnel and the speed and have that coverage ability, but also not giving much up in the run game, that's truly kind of the goal of the modern day defense. And having Caleb Downs and Styles in the back end like allows you to do that in a massive way.
Yeah, and you even like pop down to that linebacker spot. You throw a guy like CJ Hicks in there, who another one of those like
if he takes that step.
And I loved Eichenberg. Eichenberg was awesome, but like you kind of saw at times him struggling to deal with those really good tight ends. Colston Loveland against Michigan, he did struggle a little bit with him. I just think you're starting to see them build that athletic or group of athletes that just like, again, how are you? I mean, Michigan attacked him with that tight end spot. That kind of gets a little more complicated when you throw a Caleb Downs and when you throw a CJ Hickson, assuming he plays up to his talent. I think you're just starting to see, like, again, the possible holes that existed for Ohio State last year, which there were not many of them. There was like really one team who scored any points, and that was Michigan. I think you're starting to see some of those get closed up just because you have such a unique skill set of athletes.
And it's a perfect fit in this Knowles system. I can't wait to do our deep dive on this Ohio State secondary and really dig into it because it does. And this is, many of y'all know, like, this is coming from a Michigan fan that just saw, again, what I think is one of the better secondaries for Michigan in 2023. I'm saying this Ohio State secondary, Like, this hurts me to talk about this. Like, this is a Ohio State secondary that is truly special. It's loaded with NFL talent. This is a massive win for Ohio State. Really, really excited to say, as just a football fan, like, this is going to be a really fun defense to watch in 2024. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Got to shoot it straight. This is a massive get for the Buckeyes. Appreciate you guys. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.